This is page 220, the guided practice. Number 1 reads, a store has 300 televisions on order and 80% are high definition. How many televisions on order are high definition? Use the bar model and complete the bottom of the bar. So what I notice here is that 100% is 300, therefore every 10% will be 30, because a tenth of 100% is 10% and a tenth of 300 is 30. So basically, the terms along the bottom, since we're going to increase by every 10%, the terms along the bottom are simply going to be the multiples of 30. If 10% of 300 is 30, 20% would just be double that. It's going to be 60. And then another 10%, if you think about this, I know it says 30, but if you think about it, it's just another 10%. So if you add 10 more percent, you add 30 more, so it's going to be 90. So we're just going to do the multiples of 30. 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. This one should make sense because 50% is half. Half of 300 is 150, so that makes sense. Another 10% would be another 30, so it's 180. Add another 30, it's going to be 210. It's going to be 240. It's going to be 270. And there's a line right here for our answer. Remember, they actually asked us a question. It says, how many televisions are high def? And it's 80%. So it's right here. The answer is 240 high def TVs. It's probably not the best sentence I've ever written, but in fact it's not a sentence, but it works. Gets the job done. Let's move on. Numbers 2 through 5. Should be able to fit them all on here. Number 2 reads, use proportional reasoning to find 65% of 200. So what we need to recognize is what 65% means. 65% means 65 hundredths. This right here goes right there. And it says out of 200, so 200 is the whole. And I don't know the part. That's why they have a question mark there. And so you just notice things here. What I notice is that to get from the second term 100 to 200 is I double it. So I go times 2. So if you do this part times 2, you have to do this part times 2. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do 65 times 2. And that's going to be my answer. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 6 is 12. Plus 1 is 13. The answer is 130. Check out number 3. It says use multiplication to find 5% of 180. And then what they want you to do is they want you to make 5% be 5 hundredths. So right here, check this out. 5% is 5 hundredths. And we're going to multiply that by 180. And 180 needs to be over 1. And so now what they want us to do, and here's how they gave us 100 right here. They got 100 by doing 100 times 1 is 100. Now you need to go 5 times 180 to get your first term. So I'm going to help you with that. 180 times 5. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 4 is 9. You get 900. And that's an improper fraction that can easily be fixed. 100 goes into 900 9 times, which means the whole number is 9. So therefore, our summary is 5% of 180 is 9. Just for fun, probably a more interesting or easier way to solve that one would have been to simply go like this and make 5% into a decimal of 0.05 and multiply it right here. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9. It looks like 900, but then I move my decimal over. 1, 2, 1, 2. The answer is 9. The way they set it up was they wanted us to multiply using fractions, but the way I just showed you, even though I did it twice now, the way I just showed you is by multiplying by a decimal. Alright, let's check out numbers 4 and 5. Number 4 reads, Alana spent $21 of her $300 paycheck on a gift. What percent of her paycheck was spent on the gift? Notice they're setting it up for you here, and they want you to put, since this is a money problem, they want you to put all the monies on the right. And she spent 21, that's part of her check. And what was her whole check? It was 300. So when you're reading these, you need to recognize that this was part of the check and this was the whole check, and that helps us how to set these up right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put a number over here. What goes here? Well, this word right here means what? It means out of 100. So when it says what percent, that means we want to put a 100 there. Now, what I would notice is that to get from 300 down to 100, what would I do? I would divide by 3. And I want you to notice that I'm going from right to left. 300 divided by 3 is 100. Therefore, whatever you do to the first term, second term, you have to do to the first term. So I have to divide 21 by 3, and I get 7. The answer is 7 100ths. And then that is a percent, 7%. It says, the question says what percent of her paycheck was spent on the gift? Well, 7 100ths is 7%. All right, check out number 5. At Pizza Pie, 9% of the pizzas made last week had extra cheese. If 27 pizzas had extra cheese, how many pizzas in all were made last week? So 9%, what does that mean? 9% means 9 hundredths. So 9 hundredths here. And 9% of them had extra cheese. And we don't know how many total pizzas were made. So now we have it all set up correctly. And what you need to notice is that 9 times 3 is 27. So 100 times 3 is 300. 100 times 3? There were 300 pizzas made last week. The essential question, checking it at the bottom of the page, this really could be complicated, but we're going to try to make it as simple as possible. It says, how can you use proportional reasoning to solve problems involving percent? So the deal with this is, basically I kind of want to just do an image here. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a whiteboard and do an image. Here's the deal. Proportional reasoning means setting up two equivalent, either we could call them ratios or we could even call them fractions. And where do we get all these numbers? Well, some of the numbers are going to be the part compared to the whole. Like, for example, when we had that problem involving the choir, part of the kids in the choir like to sing solos. There was 12 of them. The whole choir was 50, so it's 12 out of 50. And then the other number is going to be the percent. And if they give you a percent sign, you're going to write it out of 100. And whatever the percent sign is, like let's pretend it was 17%. 17% means 17 hundredths. So whenever they give you a term that looks like this, you need to set it up as the part over 100. This is the percent right here. And this is the whole. And so if you set these problems up like this and then use proportional reasoning, usually they're pretty simple. You can either multiply or divide to find the missing number. So if you make this image right here for number 6, it'll be a good enough answer for number 6. Okay, great job. We are done with page 220.